Welcome back, ghouls and goblins, to today's emergency upload. Oh my gizzles. We have 30 new rare cards spoiled for Phyrexia. Will be one. They're all rares. This is a lot of the set. This is an unofficial leak. Definite spoiler alert. Look away, chat. Now's your chance. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's look at new cards. Hey, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. It really does help support. Big time helps the channel. So, January 6th had a massive leak. And we know who you are. You've been caught thumbing through the decks, through the packs. Now, these cards may not be actually released. However, they kind of do look fairly legit. With that being said, only time will tell. There's a bunch of them. They're all red cards. We have a ton of content to get through. Like I said, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to help support. First things first, the Mind Splice apparatus for 4 mana, an artifact with flash. At the beginning of your thumb, you may put an oil... No. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may put a thumb counter on Mind Splice apparatus. Fantastic. Instant and sorcery spells you cast will cost 1 less to cast for each thumb counter on the Mind Splice apparatus. Now, this is very, very good. I do not mind this whatsoever. I mean, it's coming in with flash on their end step. So right away, your upkeep begins. It gets a thumb counter. Instant and sorceries are now going to cost 1 less. And, I don't know if you pay attention to the channel, but we've been playing with mono blue artifacts. I think this fits there. So the first card we see, it's neat. I mean, it costs 4, not 3, which makes it a little less neat, but it has flash. It has flash, which is cool. So you don't even need the Thopter to cast it. Phyrexia is a land, a sphere land at that. We'll be adding a generic mana. We can also tap to add 1 mana of any color, activating only if Phyrexia entered the battlefield this turn. Paying 3, tapping it, creating a 1/1 colorless Phyrexian Might artifact creature token with Toxic 1. And this creature can't block. Players dealt damage by it will also get a poison counter from the, that's what toxic means. So if they're dealt damage, they're going to get a poison counter, right? It's, there's a good land. I don't mind this, right? So another absolute banging rare, potentially from the set. We don't know. We can assume with a fairly high rate of certainty, but again, nothing's certain. The Monumental Facade, another land that's a sphere. It enters the battlefield with 2 oil counters on it. This one's not thumb counters. I don't see that. These ones are oil counters. We will tap to add a generic here, colorless mana. Tap it to remove an oil counter from it. To put an oil counter on target artifact or creature you control. Activate its sorcery speed. Interesting. Interesting. On to the next. We have Bane of Bladehold, Raya Ivor. Now, this is a legendary creature, Phyrexian Knight. It's been a while since we've had Knight Tribal in Standard. Maybe that's something that comes back soon enough. For 4 mana, a 3/4 with Battle Cry. Whenever this creature attacks, each other attacking creature gets +1/+0 until the end of turn. At the beginning of your combat, or combat on your turn, if you will, the next target creature would deal damage to 1 or more players as combat, prevent that damage. If damage is prevented this way, create that many 1/1 colorless Phyrexian Might artifact creature tokens with Toxic 1, and this creature can't block. So this is actually really interesting. So at the beginning of combat on your turn, the next time target creature, so you're picking which creature, would deal combat damage to 1 or more players this combat. Prevent that damage. If damage is prevented this way, create that many 1/1s with Toxic 1. The mites, I believe, will all not be able to block. Interesting. Very interesting. You know, I don't... Each other attacking creature gets +1/+0 through the battle cry. That's not a bad effect either. Interesting. Worth more thought. It's not like, oh, this card's going to define the meta, but it's, you know, it's a good looking card. We have the Monument to Perfection for 2 mana, an artifact. We pay 3, tap it, search our library for basic Sphere or Locust land card. Reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Pay 3, the Monument to Perfection becomes a 9/9 Woof, Phyrexian construct artifact creature, loses all abilities and gains indestructible and toxic 9. Activate only if there are 9 or more lands with different names. Oh my gosh. Among the basic, Sphere, and Locust lands you control. Interesting. Big time interesting, you know? I mean, this ability can pop off every turn. So it doesn't make the second ability that, you know, outlandish. Because you're grabbing unique lands because you're searching for them. And it's like, that's a really good ramp card. You know, just every turn, grab a secondary, like... You'll never miss a land drop. Just always have the right land in your hand. I guess it's not necessarily ramp, but very good for consistency. Again, this is my first time looking at these cards. Feel free to discuss them in the comments if I'm misinterpreting anything, because, you know. All right, here we have the Bloated Contaminator for 3 mana. It's a 4/4 with Trample, Phyrexian Beast, Toxic 1. With those poison counters again, it's the same thing. Whenever Bloated Contaminator deals combat damage to a player, proliferate. Okay, so that's a keyword we like to see. Proliferate will give all of our permanents an additional counter of each kind of counter that they have. So this includes loyalty counters, +1/+1 counters, thumb counters, right? Don't forget about the thumb counters, and many more, I'm sure, right? So you don't really need to stack First Strike, Lifelink, you know, those kind of counters, because one, you're good, but there are others that you would like to maybe have multiples of. 3 mana, 4/4, Trample, Toxic 1, proliferates for 3 mana. What? This is a crazy card. This has to be top 10 of the set. That's ridiculous, dude. Encroaching, maybe if it's a bug, you know. Encroaching, oh my gosh. My Cousin, LOL. For 4 mana, an artifact within blue. Non-land permanents you control are artifacts in addition to their other types. The same is true for permanent spells you control and non-land permanent spell or permanent cards you own that aren't on the battlefield. Ooh, so this plus Battlethopter makes everything have flash? I'm listening. Interesting. What? This is gonna be crazy, bro. Like, that's a thing. 4 mana, again, so it's not 3, which really helps make it normal. But, dang. Vindictive Flamestroker for 1 mana, a 1/2 Phyrexian Wizard within red. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put an oil counter on Vindictive Flamestroker. Pay 7, 6 and 1 red. Sacrifice the Stroker, discard your hand, then draw 4 cards. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each oil counter on the Stroker. That's pretty good. I think that's, like, nice. Draw 4? Yeah, that's like fill your hand and keep blasting, baby. That's nice to see. Just what mono red needed. Card draw within a creature. Right? The Black Sun's Twilight. Double thumb means it's twice as rare. For 1 black or swamp plus X at instant speed, which is cool. Up to 1 target creature gets -X until the end of turn. Please stop it. It's okay, so this is a nice card. If X is 5 or more, return a creature card with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. I knew the double thumb meant it was double good. This card is ridiculous. Okay, new best card. Instant speed graveyard recursion. Plus removal. That is ridiculous. Dunk on your shell, they got mine back, and the story goes on and on. That is literally ungodly. Good Lord. Melira, the Living Cure. For 2 mana within Selesnya colors, 1 green or forest, and 1 white or plains. A legendary creature, Human Scout, for 3/3. If you would get 1 or more poison counters, instead, you get 1 poison counter, and you can't get additional poison counters this turn. Cool. Nice little counter to the poison mechanic. Exile it. Choose another target creature or artifact. When it's put into a graveyard this turn, return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. Interesting. That's really good, actually. And that's instant speed, you know? You can just do that whenever. For 2, like that's a good card. It's a 3/3, so it's going to block, it's going to chungo up the field. It stops poison counters from being accumulated. It can chump block, right? And then another card that's blocking and dying or trading will come back because you do this after, like, during that block before the damage goes through. Wow. Okay, so that's it's legendary, which makes it, maybe not quite as good, but maybe even better because there's lots of legendary mechanics going around right now with Joda? You know what I mean. Graz. Unstoppable Juggernaut. Legendary artifact creature, Juggernaut. For 8 mana. Juggernauts you control attack each combat if able. Juggernauts you control can't be blocked by walls. Other creatures you control have base power and toughness 5/3 and are Juggernauts in addition to their other types. In what world? I don't understand. Maybe you're bringing it back, but why wouldn't you just bring back Portal, I think this will need to be proven. Maybe it's good in like a Karn sideboard deck, pull an artifact out or something, I don't know. I think that doesn't even pull artifact creatures, though. Maybe it's any artifact. Definitely not a Portal. Forcing the attack, can't be blocked by walls. Who even plays walls? And then maybe you get a whole bunch of, like, other creatures, and this pushes up the tokens, right? Like I guess your what are we calling them? The pests, or not pests? The mites, we're calling them. If you're making a bunch of mites with toxic, instead of 1/1s, they're 5/3s. I guess that's maybe where this ends up. I'm just trying to figure something out here. I don't know. We've not seen a lot of cards. So, we're comprehending what we can. We still have lots to go through here. Archfiend of the Dross. 4 mana. Nice to see. A 6/6 with flying. Phyrexian Demon. Archfiend of the Dross enters the battlefield with 4 thumb counters on it. And at the beginning of your upkeep, remove a thumb counter from Archfiend of the Dross. Then if it has no thumb counters on it, you lose the game. So you just bounce it back. I know how Fading Hope works. This is not going to be a problem. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, its controller loses 2 life? What? Who is making these black cards? Oh my gosh. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, its controller loses 2 life. What? Sure, you know. Great. Cool beans. Blade of the Shared Souls for 3. This is an artifact equipment for Mirrodin. When this equipment enters the battlefield, create a 2/2 red rebel creature token, then attach this to it. Interesting. Whenever Blade of the Shared Souls becomes attached to a creature, for as long as Blade of the Shared Souls remains attached to it, you may have that creature become a copy of another creature you control. That is good. So for 3, you get a 2/2 that auto-equips, which would normally be 2. And whenever it becomes attached, which means you can attach it to other things during your other main phases, for as long as it remains attached to it, you may have that creature become a copy of another target creature. So you can kind of hop creatures, if you will. Not bad at all. I like that quite a bit, especially if it's got flash. Blue artifacts in the house, you know? Norn's Wellspring for 2 mana, an artifact as well. Whenever a creature you control dies, scry 1 and put a thumb counter on Norn's Wellspring. Pay 1, tap it, remove 2 thumb counters from Norn's Wellspring to draw a card. You know, it's honestly not that bad. Right? If your creatures are dying, scrying is great. Accumulating the counters is fine. Removing them for 1 to draw is pretty good, you know? Especially, you know, if you're getting triggers off playing this artifact. Right? Like whenever you cast an artifact, something happened, you know, whatever. We have the Black Cleave Cliffs. Entering the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or fewer other lands. Interesting. Unctus Grand Meditech, 3 mana, 2/4, Phyrexian Volvedelkin. Other blue creatures you control have whenever this creature becomes tapped, draw a card, then discard a card. That's really not bad at all. Other artifact creatures you control get +1/+1. This is a lord. Woof. We can pay blue or 2 life in the form of a Phyrexian mana. Until the end of turn, target creature you control becomes a blue artifact in addition to its other colors and types at sorcery speed. Interesting. I guess, you know, you could dodge Go for the Throat. For the only thing that's really coming to my mind here. And then I guess they would also get the Lord ability, which is good too. Interesting. 3 mana. The Seachrome Coast. Again, coming in tapped, unless we control 2 or fewer other lands for blue and white. The mana base in Azorius, blue and white right now is far too good. I have no hesitation saying that. Geth, Thane of Contracts, 3 mana, legendary Phyrexian zombie. Other creatures you control get -1/-1. Really? Pay 3, tap it, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains if this creature would leave the battlefield. Exile it instead of putting it anywhere else at sorcery speed. Well, I guess that's not bad. That is a straight up got your card back from the graveyard for 3. It's pretty good. You know, that's the cheapest recursion we've seen in a while. Dunking on your own creatures is probably a good way to mitigate its strength. But if all your creatures are fat, who cares? You know? Sorcery speed makes it a little less ideal as well, but I'm fine with it. It's interesting. I'm sure it sees play a little bit. It's cool that it's a zombie as well. Tablet of Completion, an artifact for 2. Tap it, put a thumb counter on Tablet of Completion. Pay 1, add 1 sorry, you're not paying 1. You're tapping it to add a generic mana, activate only if the Tablet of Completion has 2 or more thumb counters on it. Then we're paying 1 and tapping it to draw a card, activating this only if the Tablet of Completion has 5 or more thumb counters on it. 5 thumbs? How many people are playing this deck? Neat. The Mercurial Spelldancer for 2 mana cannot be blocked as a 2/1 Phyrexian Rogue. Woof. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a thumb counter on the Spelldancer. Whenever Mercurial Spelldancer deals combat damage to a player, you may remove 2 thumb counters from it. If you do, when you cast your next instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy that spell, and you may choose new targets for the copy. You know, I don't mind it. That's a good rogue at the end of the day. I don't know if it probably does see play, honestly. Can't be blocked. You know, that's always pretty nice. You know, and then potentially copying spells later on. And it's a, you know, the rogue creature type, a Phyrexian creature type as well. For 2 mana. Like it's you know, nice and cheap, I guess. The Ovikia, Ovika, Enigma Goliath within blue and red, which is interesting. This is a Phyrexian Nightmare, legendary creature for 7 mana with flying, ward 3, as well as pay 3 life. That's like a double ward, if you will. Really cool. So they're going to have to pay 3 and 3 life. 3 mana, of course, on that first one. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create an X 1/1 red Phyrexian Goblin creature token. Woof. So it's where X is that mana value of the spell. So creating multiple 1/1s, and they gain haste. It's almost like I just made a deck for this card, you know? I mean, this is so expensive for 7, but the Hellkite says hello. Absolutely. Evolved Spinnerderm. Who knows? 4 mana, Phyrexian Beast, Evolved Spinoderm enters the battlefield with 4 thumb counters on it, and whenever the Spinoderm has trample, as long as it has 2 or fewer thumb counters on it, it will have trample if it has 2 or fewer. Otherwise, it has hexproof. Interesting. We like that. And at the beginning of your upkeep, remove a thumb counter from it. If it has no thumb counters on it, sacrifice it. So again, you're probably going to have to bounce that before the sacrifice to replay it. Hexproof is cool. Trample's great too. We'll see. It can still be countered. I'd like to see some spells that say this spell cannot be countered. Urbrask's Forge. 3 mana, red artifact. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a thumb counter on the Forge. Then create an X1 red Phyrexian horror creature token with trample and haste, where X is the number of thumb counters on the Forge. Sacrificing that token at the beginning of your next end step, however, which kind of does take away from it. But it's cool. It's, I think, maybe a little jank. I don't know how competitive that will be. Kemba Ka Enduring. 2 mana, legendary creature, cat cleric. Maya, where are you? Whenever this is a 2/2, and whenever Kemba Ka Enduring or another cat enters the battlefield under your control, attach up to 1 target equipment you control to that creature. Interesting. Is Lightpaws a cat? I think Lightpaws is a cat. Equipped creature gets +1/+1, and we can pay 5 to create a 2/2 token, which is of course going to be another kitty. Moving on to Screvel's Hive. 2 mana, an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life and create a 1/1 colorless Phyrexian Might artifact creature token with Toxic 1. Corrupted. As long as your opponent has 3 or more poison counters, creatures you control have Toxic and Lifelink. All right. That's a thing. The Crucible Crucible Goliath, Ketek, Phyrexian Beast. It's a 4/4 legendary creature here as well. At the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a non-legendary creature card with lesser mana value. Put it into the battlefield, and then put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. Interesting. At the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, reveal cards from the top until you reveal a non-legendary with lesser mana value. Put it into the battlefield. Lesser mana value makes it a little less great. But maybe in Aristocrat's deck, it's still good. You're cycling through creatures. The White Sun's Twilight. We already seen how good the black version was. 2 white plus X sorcery speed. You gain X life and then create X 1/1 colorless Phyrexian Might artifact creature tokens with Toxic 1. If X is 5 or more, destroy all other creatures. All other creatures, not your 1/1 colorless Phyrexian Mights. That's pretty good. And did I misread the last card? Corrupted. As long as your opponent has 3 or more poison counters, creatures you control with Toxic have lifelink. Okay, so it's not giving Toxic to them all. Just lifelink to the ones with Toxic. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And then here, gaining life, creating mites, and then if X is 5 or more for a total of 7, which is pretty hefty, you're going to get those creatures destroyed. Which is cool. Moving on to the Mycosynth Gardens. This is a sphere. Adding generic mana through the tap. Paying 1, tapping to add a mana of any color. Pay X, tap it. It becomes a non-token artifact that you control with mana value X. Interesting. That's cool. I like these copy effects. Very nice. Kiki Jiki's going to be wilding out. Venzer, Corpse Puppet. Demir, blue and black colors here for 2. Legendary creature, Phyrexian Zombie Wizard, lifelink, Toxic 1. It's a 1/3. Whenever you proliferate, choose 1. If you don't control a creature named the Hollow Sentinel, create the Hollow Sentinel, a legendary 3/3 colorless Phyrexian Golem artifact creature token. Target artifact creature you control gains flying and lifelink until the end of turn. Interesting. For 2 mana, that's pretty good value. The Red Sun's Twilight. For 2+ X at sorcery speed, destroy up to X target artifacts. If X is 5 or more, for each artifact destroyed this way, create a token that's a copy of it. Those tokens gain haste and exile them at the beginning of the next end step. Man, it doesn't even use thumb counters. I don't really see that being the best of them so far. Thrun, Breaker of Silence for 5 mana within green. Legendary creature, Troll Shaman. This spell can't be countered. That's what I was looking for. A 5/5 with Trample. Now we're on the right path here with this. It could be only 4 mana, but we'll accept 5. What else we got? Thrun, Breaker of Silence, can't be the target of non-green spells your opponents control or abilities of non-green sources that your opponents control. Mwah. As long as it's your turn, Thrun has indestructible. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We like this. This is good. BEA beautiful. Nice. I'm happy we've seen something like that. The Zenith Chronicler. Oh my gosh. An artifact creature, Phyrexian construct, a 3/1, and whenever a player casts their first multicolored spell each turn, each other player draws a card. Wow. So This is pretty cool, right? Because if your opponent had multicolored spells, you play this for 2. It's a 3/1. Great value. You know, it's just a blade. You're drawing. You're drawing. You're drawing. That's pretty cool. I mean, nice artifact, right? It's a construct, too. Interesting. Venerated Rot Priest, Phyrexian Druid for 1 green mana. It's a 1/2. Toxic 1. And whenever a creature you control becomes a target of a spell, target opponent gets a poison counter. That's cool, too. I like it. Poison counters are in full effect. Argentum Masticore. This is a 5/5 for 5. Phyrexian Masticore with first strike, protection from multicolor. Oof. And at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice it unless you discard a card. When you discard a card this way, destroy target non-land permanent an opponent controls with mana value less than or equal to the mana of the discarded card. Wow. This is a thing. Like, it's a little expensive, but just non-land permanent removal through discard? What? Interesting. The Seed Core. This is a sphere tapping for generic as a land. You can also tap it to add 1 mana of any color. Spend this mana only to cast Phyrexian creature spells. Wow, multicolored Phyrexian decks are now a thing. Cool. Corrupted. Tap it. Target 1/1 creature gets +2/+1 till end of turn. Activate only if an opponent has 3 or more poison counters. Pushes up a might, I guess. The Maze Crusher for 3. Gruul colors, red and green. Migzol. Phyrexian Beast. Migloz. Yeah, sorry. Dyslexia 101. Maze Crusher enters the battlefield with 5 thumb counters on it. We can pay 1 to remove a thumb counter. It gains Vigilance and Menace until the end of turn. That's very good. This is a 4/4 for 3 mana. We can pay 2 to remove 2 thumb counters from it. It gets +2/+2 until the end of turn. And we can pay 3 to remove 3 thumb counters to destroy target artifact or enchantment. Jesus. What? Good card. And you have 5 counters on it when it enters. So you get to destroy something, give it double Vigilance Menace, or give it a single +2. And then you bounce it or whatever. Crazy. That's like a good card. We have the Copperline Gorge. This is the tapped unless you control 2 or fewer other lands within Gruul. The Dragon Wing Glider, an equipment for 5 within red. For Mirrodin, enters the battlefield, create a 2/2, then attach it. Equipped creature gets +2/+2, has flying and haste, and the equipped cost is 5. Ooh, that's expensive. Phyrexian Arena for 3 within black as an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. That's not bad. I will cast this every single day of my life. Multiple copies of it, and then I'll sacrifice it a little later. This is even good in like an old Doom Foretold deck. Wow, not bad. Conduit of the Worlds. An artifact for 4 within green. You may play lands from your graveyard. We can tap it to choose target non-land permanent card in our graveyard. If you haven't cast a spell this turn, you may cast that card. If you do, you can't cast additional spells this turn at sorcery speed. The Eternal Wanderer for 6 mana. Legendary Planeswalker. No more than 1 creature can attack the Eternal Wanderer each combat. 5 starting loyalty. +1. Exile up to 1 target artifact or creature. Return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of that player's next end step. So we've seen these cards that self-sacrifice. This can get around that. Pay 0, create a 2/2 Samurai with double strike. Okay. And -4. For each player, choose a creature that player controls. Each player sacrifices all creatures they control not chosen this way. You can activate that on entry. Hello, 5 loyalty, and that's a -4. So you play this, dunk on everything, and hopefully, for each player, does that include you? It must. Ah, well, still cool. Still pretty cool. So that's what we have for new cards released just today, January 6th. I don't think there are any new ones. This is where we started, and that's where we finished. Shout outs to the Thumb for the massive drop. Oh my gosh. And again, you know, we're kind of getting into that area where we want to start brewing. There are some older cards, if you haven't seen those yet. Either they were released on the official stream. I believe we've talked about them already. Pretty cool. We like the lands, and you know, just really excited to see what else is coming our way. So thank you all so much for watching. I truly do appreciate it. Have an absolute magical day. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, things like this. And yeah, we'll see you soon in the next. Consider becoming a member for exclusive member streams on Sunday here on YouTube. And you can challenge me directly for bragging rights, which is pretty cool. So sign up and we'll see you then. Until then, though, you know, magical days and this and that. Ugh, that's a lot of reading. I am done, dude.